So how does poison work, and is it any good? So one thing people tend to notice when they play this game is that Anna is actually really good for like a first playthrough, and one of the reasons for that is her poison. Poison essentially does 10% of max HP as damage, but there's one thing about it that causes it to fall off. So in this video, I'm just going to demonstrate how poison works. So if we just use poison pellet on this archer who has 57 health, he will take 5 damage. It actually seems to just round down. So there you go, 5 damage. So he has 57 health, he takes 5 damage. That's basically 10%. Alright, so cool. So what if we use it on another enemy who has 65 health? He takes 6 damage. Alright, cool. So it does 10% damage. These are low-level enemies. Now let's change the environment that we are testing in. So let's just cancel this mock battle. Oops, let's do this. I think you have to hit X. System, retreat, yes, go. So we've confirmed that it does 10% right out of the gate, so that's good. Now we want to test how much it does at level 50. And this is where things start to change a little bit, because essentially what happens is poison damage caps at 30. So this seems okay, because 30 damage, 90 damage over 3 turns for Anna seems decent. So let's just go to level 50 map. And we'll just run only units that can poison, just so we can throw a bunch of poison on things, or maybe even just Anna, as long as we just have Anna on the board. Oops, do not cancel. I'm meaning to go to this. Alright, let's move Anna up. Cool, alright, let's begin. So I'm going to throw poison on 2 level 50 enemies, and we're going to see what it does. So one of the reasons Anna actually falls off in the game, as you get into New Game Plus and max level, is because of this poison cap. If she always did 10% of max with poison, she would be way more relevant and her kit would be more relevant. But unfortunately, poison caps out at 30 damage, so generally speaking, she'll be dealing like 5 to 6% of max HP, essentially dealing half poison damage. So if we put her right here, we throw poison at these guys. Alright, let's pass. We'll hover over them. Alright, so they have roughly, so they have 505 health and 5, okay, so they both have 505 health. So if poison damage was always going to deal 10%, they would take like 50 damage. So we're just going to start passing turns until one of them goes, which should happen in like two turns. 30. Okay, so there's the cap. So why does this matter? So there's 3 characters that you can get that can poison. Medina can poison, but this isn't really how she's used. Anna can poison, and Milo can poison. Poison is really good on your first playthrough when it does 10%, because one use of poison, if Anna poisons 2 things, both of them are guaranteed to lose 30% of their maximum health. Now compare that to this unit taking 30 damage, that's roughly 6%. So 18 versus 30 is huge. Like, just one ability putting 30% damage on something is massive. So early game, like on a fresh save, and part of the way through a New Game Plus hard playthrough, poison is pretty good, but then it starts to fall off, and then it basically caps at around roughly 6%. So it's still significant enough that it does decent damage. So poisoning both of these puts like 40 to 60 damage on initial hits, depending on if you get a crit or not, plus 90 over time. It's basically guaranteed 90 damage. But in the grand scheme of things, like 90 damage for 1 TP isn't really the best thing. Well, she actually has to use so in order to put poison on both of these, she burns through 2 TP. She puts basically 120-ish damage on 2 targets over time. And that's basically worse than just using ranged. If she just were to use 2 ranged stones. So let's do this. Let's see if I can fast acting medication from here. All right, I can. All right, so let's just have Anna use 2 ranged stones. Let's see how much damage she can deal with that versus the poison. Here we go. All right. Let's see. All right, 88. 88. So which is better? It should be obvious, right? The ranged stones can hit further. She can use 2 of them. It's 160 damage up front. Basically, poison becomes bad the further you get. Like, especially New Game Plus. Like, a New Game Plus, Anna's better off just using 2 ranged stones. It costs you no TP. It just costs money, which is easy to farm. And it just deals more damage. It does 160 up front versus 120 over time. It's pretty obvious which one's better. Now, obviously, the poison can trigger follow-up attacks. But, you know, damage over time definitely falls off in New Game Plus hard. There are instances where it can be useful, but if it was always 10%, I would say poison never falls off. But because it is, you know, like now 5 to 6, it's just not nearly as good. And also against enemy bosses, it falls off. Like early game, like on a fresh save, bosses, they'll take 10% of their max, which is it's significant early on because the amount of health they have, while it's smaller, the percent of health lost per unit attacking them is roughly the same, and it just scales up as the game, you know, goes up in difficulty. Like as enemies level up, your units level up. So poison is always good, but it just really falls off late game and like a New Game Plus. So one of the reasons, and I don't think people are like aware of this, or maybe they just don't notice it, but everyone agrees that Anna falls off at level 50, and part of the reason for this is the poison damage being reduced. But you can have her spam AoE stones, and it's expensive to do this, but she can become like a decent nuker while doing this, but you'll have to pay for it. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for poison. 10% of max until it caps out at 30. So like as soon as it hits 30, that's when it caps. It doesn't care about what level you are. It's just looking at like the percentage. So like as it like once it hits, so like the highest amount of health before it caps like is basically 300 max health. That's when it's still dealing 10%. And then once it gets above 300, then it gradually becomes less and less high impact and eventually just becomes kind of bad. Because being able to just put poison on a bunch of things and automatically guarantee they lose a third of their health is big value, especially if you throw a poison on a thing and then hide and then just keep doing this on enemies that aren't moving. You can just have her kill them for free, and you can still do this with Anna, but it just takes longer because now it's like 6% instead of 10. So I guess it depends on how patient you want to be. But if you want her to play around with other units, poison isn't the best thing because burst damage is generally better anyways. So to answer the question, is poison good? I would say on a fresh save it is, and then it falls off. But yeah, that's pretty much it for poison. I do like doing these test videos where I like test conditions and see like how things work. But it is interesting to know that it caps out at 30 damage. I don't know why it does. I feel like if it didn't, it would be fine. It wouldn't really be overpowered. It would just be like somewhat competitive with other options. 6% is just not justifiable, like to use, like to waste time throwing poison on things. If it was always 10%, I would say it's always good. And it's like Anna's like a solid A tier. I mean, I already think she is for general use if you use her correctly, but yeah, her poison isn't the reason why. So that's it for this one. If you like this type of content, definitely like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be doing more content like this. Drop a comment as to what you think about poison, or what you think about Anna in general, or whatever you feel like. You know, it doesn't matter. All right. Thanks for checking this out, and peace.